Wow. I am so excited to be here, and I just want you to know that you are my heroes because you've taken a Saturday, and the weather's even decent, to come and learn about a difficult and sensitive topic. I am really grateful, and I'm so thankful that you have the courage to face pornography head on so your kids won't have to face it alone. And I loved how the theme of today's conference, the hope effect. I want you to have a lot of hope for your children. I want you to feel like they are growing up in a world filled with positive opportunities. So at the same time that you're teaching them about how to avoid the dangers, you're also stressing the wonderful, good things that they can take advantage of with technology and the internet and all those things. So I have great hope as I see this room filling up when I see all of you here. So again, thank you for being here. And Linda, thanks for introducing me. She came up and asked me how I got started, and it really was this new friend of mine, and her 17-year-old son had started to sexually molest his younger brothers and sisters, and they were a large family, and she homeschooled, trying to protect her children from these kinds of evils and dangers, and but the internet came into her home. And so all of her family were affected. And when, after I heard that story, the next day I woke up and I thought, I just felt compelled to look for a resource that would help parents start this conversation with their children. Because when we were growing up, our parents probably didn't talk to us about this. And we didn't have a script. You know, my mom had a script for a lot of the problems that I faced. When kids teased me at school, she said, kill them with kindness and just don't let them see that you're upset. And so then I taught that to my children. That's a script. But my mother didn't give me a script for how to deal with pornography. And so I wanted a script that would be easy. And that's was how Good Pictures, Bad Pictures got started. So, okay, now we're going to work with the clicker. Yes. Okay, so we have 2 books today, and these are resources to help you get started. One is our original book, and that's for kids ages 7 through 11, maybe 6. I've heard of people reading them to 4-year-olds. But then we have a new book, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior, and that is for 3 to 6-year-olds. And it's just a very simple, gentle warning. But we also include some body safety information and help. And so we hope that these 2 resources will really help parents start that conversation. And hopefully all of you have received a handout. If you haven't, they're in the back. My husband in the blue shirt has them. And at the bottom, if you'll fill this form out and give us some feedback, give me some feedback on this presentation. I read all of them, and it really helps me to improve the information I'm giving to parents. And then on the back, we have a way to, if you want to actually help us at Protect Young Minds, which is my website, you can become an ambassador, so you can check that and check the area of expertise that you would like to contribute to. So once you do that, all you do is you just fold it on that dotted line or rip it off, and there's going to be a box in the back that you can put that into, and at 12:55 we will have the drawing. So that's kind of a thank you for being here. I also want to introduce you to our website, which is Protect Young Minds. We have a lot of free guides. We have a blog and a lot of free guides there, and so I hope that you will go there and find out some more resources there. So our big thing is prevention. I'd like to put all of these recovery people out of a job so they can go do something else. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great? So it's so much easier to prevent this problem than to recover from it. And so we want to stress prevention. I received a message, and this was from a mom. Actually, it was through our friends at Life Changing Services. They have a mother's support group called Mothers Who Know, and they passed this on to me, and I got permission to share it with you. She said, I just found out that my 10-year-old son has been looking at pornography for the last month. My world is crashing down, and I am almost suicidal at this news. I feel guilt and shame and anger. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? What resources are there for a child this age? Everything out there is for teenagers. Help me. So this is exactly the reason we are trying and working so hard to provide information and support and encouragement for parents of younger children. Okay. So before we get started on the 10 essentials or the 10 things that every porn immune kid knows, I would like to present 3 things that every parent needs to know to help raise those porn immune children. So the first thing is that early warning is better. I've had people say, but won't it make my child more curious? And I'm like, there's no way you could actually make your child more curious than they already are and will be when they get on the internet or with their friends. It's better to be side by side with your child, giving them the answers, giving them solutions, and an inoculation, really, than for you just to kind of hope that they won't see anything and that when they do, they'll come and tell you. There's so many benefits to starting early. You set yourself up as the go-to expert. You give your children permission to talk about what for many is a shameful or a taboo subject. You create an environment of safety to talk about these things, and you increase your trust with the child. So I got another email from a mother. She was doing everything she could to protect her children. And she says this, although I never dreamed my kids would be exposed, since we homeschool and are very careful about who they are with, we had the conversations anyway, just in case, right? And just days after discussing it again, my 7-year-old son ran into it. And the backstory is he was just going down to his new friend's house the new friend was going to pick up his bike and they were going to go on a bike ride. But while they were there, stepped in the house, and in 2 minutes, the older teenage boys had said, hey, come here, I want to show you something. And he was exposed at age 7. So she said, I'm quite sure I never would have known anything about it. What could have become a sort of wedge between us, a secret, right? A wedge between us became a bonding experience and fortified our trust in one another. So I have gotten together some parents and to talk about their experiences with talking to their children. And so I have a couple little videos today, and so we're going to see one right now about the benefits of early warning.
I did not anticipate we would be having this conversation with our kids this early. So when you're looking at young children, how do you provide a context to talk with them about pornography when at this age, my 5-year-old especially had absolutely no context for sex, for any discussion about anything related to this topic. We were completely overwhelmed, had no real clue about how we were going to sit down and start this discussion. And that was frightening. It was because there was this sense of urgency. I felt like if this could happen to this child who was in a very responsible, well-protected home, this could happen to my children at any time. There's a sense of urgency. We need to have this discussion, and how do we go about doing that in a way that's going to be effective and not frighten them and and yet get them the information they need to have to protect themselves.
You know, when it comes to talking to young children, in our mind we're saying, gosh, they're so young. But we realized that, you know, when I grew up, the issue of pornography, the issues were real, but you didn't see it and you didn't deal with it until you were older. If we don't talk to our children before they get to be 10, 11, it's going to be too late. The world and their friends are going to educate them about it in a way that we don't want, because it will be a hands-on, and then we'll be in the reactive mode rather than the proactive mode.
I think if you take the opportunity to warn your children early about pornography, then they have tools already that they can use to avoid it, to, when they do see it, to, stop looking at it, those kind of things, and to talk to somebody about it. They'll have skills at a young age because they are going to come across it somewhere, somehow.
I think the main benefits of early warning is that they have a plan. I think my kids, I don't want them to be scared of the world, but I want them to be prepared for it. And I think the best way to prepare them is to tell them what's there, openly, honestly, in a way that they can understand, and say, but I'm also going to give you the tools. You don't have to be scared. I'm going to give you the tools, and you're going to be okay, but I want you to know what's there.
I love how she said, I don't want my kids to be scared of the world. I want them to be prepared. So prepared, not scared. Okay, so the second thing is, it's not just a boy problem. Jeffrey Ford, who's also a speaker here today, said this: the first thing that parents need to know and understand is that girls are just as sexual as boys. In our culture, we don't think that, we don't believe that, but it's true. And some ways girls are more at risk because parents are not as worried about them. So there are parents that will put filters on all the boys' phones and collect them at night, but then nothing on the girls' phones. And believe me, I've heard so many stories. One of the stories early on, as I was writing my book, was a story of an 8-year-old who got an iPod Touch for her birthday, and she had just gotten the sex talk, and she was curious. So guess what she typed into Google? Sex. And guess what she saw? Pornography. Lots and lots of it for months and months and months. Most horrifying. And so it's very important that we warn our girls just as much as our boys. Lacey Bentley, she's here today. She's a student at UVU, and she created a survey, and the results have not been published, but they showed something very troubling, and that is that young girls are far less likely to report porn exposure to an adult. Boys were twice as likely to report. So we need to assume that our girls are just as much at risk as boys. So we have a lot of research that shows that porn harms children, and we need to be confident and know, we need more, but we need to know that there's a lot of research that shows this. We know that porn sexualizes kids through pop culture. All I have to say is the Kardashians, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It promotes body objectification, and I know if any of you were in the keynote, Matt Fradd talked a lot about that. Grooms kids for child abuse by older perpetrators, but also it fuels child-on-child sexual abuse. This is skyrocketing. You know, it used to be kids were abused maybe by their parents or step-parents. They're now more likely to be abused by their older sibling than a parent or a step-parent. It's really an epidemic. And it increases risk for addiction, obviously. We also know through studies, meta-studies, that pornography not only changes sexual attitudes, it changes sexual behavior. And there's just really no denying that. So I pulled together this information, and if you will text, and I gave it at a summit in Houston in September called the Coalition to End Sexual Exploitation, so that's CEASE. And if you want this packet of information, all you have to do is text 44222 and then put in CEASE 16, and it'll ask for your email, and then we will send you. This is a wonderful packet, very simple to read and understand, and my wonderful husband pulled it together for me. So it'll help give you a lot of ammunition for anyone that is a naysayer or doesn't believe you when you say that pornography is harmful to children. Okay, so let's get into the 10 essentials, or 10 things that every porn-immune kid knows. I'm just going to quickly go through them, and then we'll go through them more in depth. I know what porn is, and I can recognize it. This is so important. I know how pornography makes me feel. I am learning to deal with uncomfortable feelings so they won't turn into addictions. I know that pornography can hurt me. I understand how addiction affects my 2 brains. I know what to do when I see pornography. I am prepared with a plan. I know 5 important body safety rules. I know that no one should ever take pictures of me without my clothes on. And I should never share pictures of my private parts either. I know that no one should ever show a child pornography. I can say no. And I know the trusted adults I can talk to without shame or fear about pornography. So let's start with the first one here. I know what porn is. I can recognize it. So before we get into the definitions, I think we all need to be a little more comfortable saying the word pornography, okay? You know, if you're familiar with Harry Potter, what's the name that cannot be named? Voldemort. Ha, I just said it, okay? Nothing bad happened, all right? Nothing bad is going to happen if you actually say the word pornography to your children. So at the count of 3, everyone say pornography, okay? Just humor me. Okay, 1, 2, 3, pornography. See, we need to own this word. We can't be tiptoeing around it. Shameful, oh my gosh, this word, it's so horrible, so ugly, I can't say it. No, we need to take it back. Because when we stop being ashamed of this, right, we need to bring pornography out of the dark where it has power and into the light where our kids have power, okay? So out of the dark where it has power, into the light where our kids have power. And somebody actually did a meme of that and quoted me, and I'm like, that's good. Did I say that? I'm like, I guess I did. Anyway, so now I use it all the time, but it's really good. Okay, let's go through the simple definition. This is one that comes from our book, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and it's simply pictures or videos or even cartoons of people with no clothes on that focus on the parts of the body that we keep covered with a swimsuit. This next one comes from Jill Manning's book, What's the Big Deal About Pornography? Pornography is material specifically designed to arouse sexual feelings in people by depicting nudity, sexual behavior, or any type of sexual information in any media. So let's just talk about why is it so important to define pornography for kids. First of all, if they recognize it, they can reject it. If they don't recognize it or that it's harmful or don't even know what it is, they're not going to be able to reject it. So that's the very first step. Kids can easily be drawn into pornography. It's biological. We're all wired to want to look at naked bodies. And so our kids are too. They don't know that it's bad unless we tell them it's dangerous. I was a young child, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, when I found a Playboy magazine. I was very intrigued. I was not a bad kid. But guess who I showed it to? My little sister. Yeah, of course, right? So I corrupted her too. She'd probably say that I continue to do that. Anyway, so defining pornography brings the shame level down, and we know that shame fuels secrecy and addiction. So it's crucial to have power over this word instead of it having power over your kids. Oh, and by the way, on these handouts, every one of these steps has a title or two of blog posts. So I hope you'll go to our blog and get more in-depth information, because of course I don't have time to go as in-depth as I would like to today on all of these topics. Number 2, I know how pornography might make me feel. Some kids feel shocked and repulsed when they see pornography. Some kids feel excited and intrigued. Some kids feel both. One man that I talked to said that when he was 7 years old and saw a pornographic magazine, he felt like it was the pull of a giant magnet. And he just felt compelled to go seek out more pictures like that, and he did end up having an addiction. So it's important to tell kids that they might feel excited about this. It might feel like the pull of a magnet, or they might feel sick, or they might feel both, and that these are normal reactions. Again, bringing down the shame and helping them understand their feelings, because porn is tricky for kids. It's tricky. I am learning, so number 3, I am learning to deal with uncomfortable feelings so they won't turn into addictions. Kids often look at porn because it's a very effective distraction away from negative feelings and away from their problems. It can quickly numb emotional pain. It can, in the short term, help them forget that they are bored, lonely, angry, stressed, or tired. So we need to help kids identify their emotions and emotional needs. So here's some common emotional needs that all of us have. And if we can, in a healthy way, fulfill or satisfy these needs, then we are not as prone to addiction. John Fort, who's the author of Father-Son Accountability, is an emotional needs guru, and he's written for us on our blog. He was trapped by porn as a young man and says this, quote, "As a father, I wanted my son to have skills that would enable him to avoid the addictive effects of pornography. I knew his best chance would be to learn to meet his own emotional needs through relationships." Okay? Pornography is not a relationship. Okay? Reality had to meet his emotional needs in ways fantasy could not. He needed to know that emotions are good and expressing them makes men stronger. Avoiding addiction requires authentic connection with others. So it's important to model emotional awareness, our own emotional awareness, and to mentor children in making plans to meet their emotional needs. And there's a wonderful couple of blog posts on this that goes more into depth. This is just a kind of a teaser. I hope you'll go in and find out more about this topic, because it is very important. Children do use pornography, and as they get older, as a stress reliever and a way to avoid emotional pain. So let's go to number 4. I know that pornography can hurt me. So we know that pornography can hurt the brain, can change it. It can become an addiction that's very difficult to overcome. It can hurt my ability to love others. It can lead me to see others as things to use instead of people to love and cherish and respect. And it can put people at risk for hurting others. So, as I told you with the 17-year-old boy who acted out on his siblings, did that after being, into porn for several years. So again, we want to avoid hurting other people, and we want to avoid ourselves becoming those kind of people. So this is from Mark Bell, who is a therapist, and he's written for us as well. Using pornography is a form of unhealthy sexuality that most often results in making a person more selfish, dishonest, isolated, unhappy, and less empathetic and more disrespectful towards others. So, number 5, I understand how addiction affects my 2 brains. Now, again, if you're familiar with Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, you've seen the feeling brain and the thinking brain, and I just want to go through. Kids love to find out that they have 2 brains, and it's very helpful for them to kind of visualize this. So the feeling brain is that part in the middle, that green part. Don't really think it's green, but anyway, it's that fast, automatic part of our brain that's involved with our basic appetites. And our sexual appetite comes from there, our reward system. This is the part of the brain that's curious to see bad pictures. But this part of the brain doesn't know right from wrong. The part of the brain that knows right from wrong and can put the brakes on our curiosity is the thinking brain. The thing about the thinking brain, though, is it's not developed fully until ages 20 to 25. That's why we have to talk and train more with our young kids rather than less. They need to get more control. They need to be able to say, I'm going to use my thinking brain to overcome the curiosity my feeling brain feels. Okay, so in our new book, the Turn, Run, and Tell, we have a Turn, Run, and Tell plan, because it's not enough to just tell kids, okay, your thinking brain, feeling brain. You have to give them a plan. You have to give them a way to respond, right? You don't just tell them the house could catch on fire. You tell them how to escape the house when it's on fire, right? So that's basically, this is an escape plan for kids. So for the younger kids, it's Turn, Run, and Tell. For the older kids, it's the Can-Do plan. So let's just go through this very briefly. Close my eyes. The longer I look, the more difficult it is to forget. Always tell a trusted adult. Never keep it a secret. Name it when I see it. When you name something, when you label it, what part of the brain are you bringing online? The thinking brain. Yeah. So these are the 3 things you want your children to do immediately upon exposure. But what about when those shocking memories come back? How many of us can remember the first time we saw something pornographic? I mean, they stay with you. It's hard. So we need to teach kids skills to be able to distract their thoughts away and redirect their thoughts to something else that's exciting. So if your little guy is into monster trucks, or if your little girl is into, and I don't want to be sexist here, monster trucks, whatever. Hey, I loved Hot Wheels. I was a tomboy as a kid. So I didn't want Barbies or dolls. I wanted Hot Wheels. So it's important to, whatever is exciting for them. So I have an unmedicated anxiety disorder myself, and when I think about, when I get nervous, what I've recently now gone to is I start thinking about puppies, because I want a new puppy. And so I start thinking about puppies, and it's exciting for me, and that helps me turn away from my anxiety. Well, the same thing happens with pornography. You think of something different. Now your brain is going to still, I'm so sorry. Your brain is going to still go back to the pornographic image. It's going to keep popping up, but as you practice turning it away or going and doing something physical, it will fade and it will stop popping up. I've used this myself, and I know it works, and many therapists also use this. O stands for order my thinking brain to be the boss. Have this conversation. Hey, feeling brain, I know you're curious about seeing those bad pictures, but I'm going to keep my thinking brain in charge because it knows right from wrong. Okay, number 7, let's talk about body safety rules. As I mentioned before, this, I used to, when I started this, it was like addiction. This is like the main problem, addiction. And now I am seeing more and more, addiction still is a big problem, but it's the child-on-child sexual abuse that is just really troubling. So let's teach our children 5 important body safety rules. So first, I know the names of my private body parts, and you need to teach them the actual scientific names, like vagina and penis, okay? And you need to be able to say the word penis or vagina just as easily as you say elbow, okay? If you need to go practice somewhere by yourself, that's fine. Hey, sometimes I make, or I ask nicely, I ask people to say the word penis out loud. But I won't do that today. You already said pornography, so we're good. But I'll tell you a story of a woman who was a certified, she worked for Child Protective Services. And she saw all these cases coming through. So when she had kids, she was going to protect them. She taught them, their body parts. But her last child was a girl. And she taught her that she had a vagina, but she didn't teach her 3-year-old the male body parts. Well, they moved to a new place, and in their church there was a young boy, 14 years old, and he was just so nice to this family. He came over and helped mow the lawn. He just loved playing with with her little daughter. He became a trusted friend of the family, and I know you know the end of this story. He became their babysitter. And the little girl would say after he would go, she'd say, "Mommy, I don't like it when he pokes me with his stick." Now, I don't know if he taught her to say stick, but she did know the word penis. What would have happened if she had known the word penis and she had said, "Mommy, I don't like it when he pokes me with his penis"? Well, that would have been the end of that. Unfortunately, it went on for months because this mother kind of dismissed it, like, because there was so much trust in this 14-year-old who had groomed the entire family. Teach kids the proper words. It will make them safer. I know what private means. I keep my private parts private. If someone, even another kid, asks to see my private parts, I say no. No one should ever ask me to keep a secret about touching private parts. And I will always tell my parents or a trusted adult if someone asks to see my private parts, right? And I know I won't get in trouble when that happens. All right, we are just moving right along here. Number 8. Okay. No one, including myself, should ever take pictures of me without my clothes on. So you've all heard of sexting, and you've probably heard of sextortion. Sextortion is when someone sends a picture, a nude picture or a risque picture, and the person who receives it then uses it to blackmail the sender, asking either for money or for more pictures, okay, more explicit pictures. This is happening to young children. They're playing online games like Roblox. They're chat rooms in these games. And there are pedophiles posing as other little friends, little children, and they groom these kids that go in these chat rooms. And kids are sending nude pictures. Kids are producing child pornography. It's not just creepy adults, right? It's children are getting blackmailed or coaxed into producing child pornography. All right. In April of 2016, the Justice Department declared in a new report that sextortion is by far the most significantly growing threat to children, with more than 60% of survey respondents indicating this type of online enticement of minors was increasing. The department performed a national child exploitation threat assessment by surveying investigators, prosecutors, analysts, and victim service providers to determine the biggest threats in child sexual exploitation. Quote, in one 2015 FBI sextortion investigation, the Justice Department wrote, offenders were specifically seeking out those children they considered easy targets because of their demonstrated willingness to post personal content online and engage in live streaming video activity, whether the content was sexually explicit or not. So if they see kids posting and using live streaming apps, which I think are fairly dangerous for kids, they are targeted. So I was, last September, I was asked to go and testify before a Senate committee in Washington State. This is the Law and Justice Committee. And they had, one of the senators there was interested in getting testimony of why pornography is a public health threat. And so I did my presentation, and next to me sat a police officer. He was in charge of Washington State's internet crimes against children. And he gave tons of statistics, very troubling statistics. But one story really stuck with me. And it was a story of a video that he had seen of an 8-year-old boy who had done a video of himself raping a 4-year-old girl and put it up on the internet. If that isn't troubling, so that's why we have to be specific and about not taking pictures, not allowing anyone to take pictures. But it's not just kids. Here, down in Orem or Provo, there was a story I saw a few months ago of a 21-year-old young man, college student, who was online, thought he had found a really nice girl, possible romance, and she asked him to send kind of an iffy picture, right? A risque picture of himself. And he did. He didn't normally do this kind of thing, but somehow she talked him into it. Well, then when she got that picture, she threatened him with blackmail, sextortion, and if he wouldn't send actually money. Turns out this is like an Eastern European sextortion ring. Well, this poor young man was so ashamed after he'd run out of money to give to her, like $700 or $900, he committed suicide. We just don't know how many of these are happening. So please, teach your children specifically. And we really did, I didn't put a lot of this in my first book, but in the second book, we do list this specifically. Don't let anyone take pictures of you, and never give a picture of yourself because of this increasing threat of sextortion. Okay, so 9, no one should ever show a child pornography. Now, I contend that every school bus in America has turned into a XXX rated theater because of mobile devices. I am so sick of hearing of kids getting exposed to pornography on school buses. I wish there was some policy, something we could do about that. I really don't understand why kids are bringing mobile devices to schools, but that's a whole nother thing. So teach kids how to say no. Role play with them of how to turn away from pornography. And remind and reassure them often. Don't want to it's not a one and done. None of this is a one and done. You have to continue to teach children and add more and more information as they get older and more mature. So I wanted to just share quickly a few success stories. There was an 11-year-old girl on a bus, and a young boy said, "Hey, let me show you something." So this is one thing that I encourage parents to teach their children, is that if one of their peers says, "Hey, I want to show you something on my mobile device or my phone," to make sure the children always react with, "What are you going to show me?" before they look. Okay? Well, this girl was with her girlfriend, and this boy came up and said, "Hey, let me show you this." And when she realized it was pornography, she said, "No, I'm not going to look at that," and she turned away. But her friend kept looking. And that is a natural response for many children. So again, which child was safer? The child that had been warned, that had been inoculated. There was another child a 7-year-old, he was walking home from school with his friend, little boy, and they stop at the mailbox. And this little boy gets the mail, and out comes a Playboy magazine. And the little 7-year-old that was warned about it said, "That's pornography. You shouldn't be looking at that." And then he came home and told his mother. So again, we never know when our kids are going to be exposed. We can't control it. All we can do is inoculate it. And I have many, many other stories of kids that have been warned, given the can-do plan, and they respond appropriately. And then they come and they tell their parents. All right, we're almost at the end. You guys are great. You're hanging in here. Number 10, I know the trusted adults I can talk to without shame or fear about pornography. And of course, if you're a parent or a grandparent, you should be one of those trusted adults. And you should make it safe for your kids by giving them the information, by giving them the vocabulary to talk about it. Most parents think that their kids would come and tell them about a porn exposure. But the experts that I've talked to and the studies I've seen show that this just isn't true. Only a small portion of children disclose on the same day their initial exposure occurred. So on the same day, 9% of girls in one study and 7% of boys told their parents. That's over 90% that didn't. And this is the same study that Lacey Bentley did that I'm quoting from. If children did not disclose on the same day, chances of talking to anyone before adulthood went down substantially, and girls were almost twice as likely to have never disclosed overall, so 27%. So over 31% report that they never told anyone about their childhood exposure. So again, you need to become the trusted adult to help your children, and you need to identify other trusted adults that they could talk to. And you need to make sure that those people feel comfortable. You know, if your child sees something and they're in their care, that they can come to them and report it, and that you won't freak out. So there's a story of these two young girls, sisters, and their mom came to pick them up. They were playing at a friend's house, and she pulls up in her minivan, and she looks out, and there are her two little girls, and the friend showing them something on a smartphone. So when the two little girls came and got in the car, she asked them, "What were you looking? What was she showing you?" And they looked at each other, and then one said, "Oh, she was just showing us some My Little Pony videos." Okay? Well, she lied. She didn't know how to tell her mother what she had seen. And she knew it probably was something that she shouldn't see. So when that mother did start talking about pornography and teaching them how to respond to it, they fessed up and they told her about this experience. And so this has happened many times where children have seen it, their parents have no idea, and then when they open the conversation, the children are then able to talk, and it's a wonderful thing. Okay. So we're going to encourage your kids to report anything that they see on the same day. And remind them that just because they see something bad, that doesn't make them bad. Okay, let's just...
I'm a mother of 4 boys. I just think you really have to start talking about it. My husband does monthly interviews with my boys, and he asks them what they've been doing, if they know to stay away from it, and I really think that helps keep the communication open, and it reminds them every month to make good choices, because we know when you avoid it, it becomes this deep, dark thing, and it's just will go for years.
If I could give any parent advice about talking to their children about pornography, and this is as a professional that has worked with children, and as a mother, I think more importantly as a mother, it is never too early to start talking to your children. I certainly did not believe I would need to have this conversation at 8 and 5, and that was 5 years ago. You know, I now have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. I did not think that conversation was relevant then, and technology is moving faster than we can keep up with. It is absolutely a conversation that we need to have with our children, and the earlier, the better. The earlier we start, the more comfortable they are. My children, today my 13-year-old is extremely comfortable, and this is a topic, especially as our kids approach their teen years, you think, how are we going to talk to them? When you start, when they're little, there is no context for them yet. We create that context, and we create it in an environment that's safe, and it's something they can talk to us about openly, and there isn't that hesitation. They talk about it, and it's very comfortable. So please start with your children young, and know that even if we can keep our own children safe in our home, the dangers are out there. In our society today, everyone is walking around with a handheld device of some type, and that's a pathway to pornography. And so we have to be having this discussion with our children. We really don't have a choice.
For other parents out there who are nervous about talking to their children about pornography, I would say I'm there with you. I understand, because that's how I felt. I procrastinated for quite a bit. I knew I needed to have that talk, and I kept putting it off, and little things would trickle in, and I'd try and kind of address them as they came up, and I realized we need to have a talk. And so we did, and I was so surprised at how easy it was, if it's done the right way. It wasn't awkward, and if you take it step by step, you can do it. It's really not as bad as you think it's going to be. It's more, I think, our generation. It's not something we grew up talking about, so it's different for us to try to talk to our children about it, but we have to, and it's not that bad. My kids took it really well, and I feel like they understand, and we need to do it.
The bottom line is, you can either talk about pornography when they're 5, 6, 8, and help them be prepared to deal with it, or you can find it on their phone when they're 16 and are struggling to overcome dealing with the effects of pornography.
Don't be afraid to talk about it with your kids. Unfortunately, a lot of kids will come across it before we as parents even know it. So I think anytime a parent has an opportunity to talk about it with their children, don't be afraid. Take that chance. I don't think it's ever too young to start with your children to talk about this topic with them.
Okay, well, let's just wrap up. Since the theme today is about hope, I started thinking about how we can actually increase our hope in this world, and that it has a lot of dangers. So the things I came up with is to be grateful. There's a lot of studies on gratitude lately and how it leads to a more positive outlook. And kids do need to see the positive in the world. We can be grateful that there are more resources for parents, and they're increasing. When I first came to UCAP, we were the only resource for parents. Now you can go out and see several. So that makes me really happy, and it should make you feel grateful. And the movement against porn is gaining so much momentum. You know, Utah's leading the way with this, public health resolution, and I'm really grateful for that. Now, the next thing you can do to build your hope, action, right, always helps you. So action increases hope. Write a goal. Now, I figured there's about 10 weeks between now and the end of school. And you could go over these 10 essentials with your children and then give yourself some kind of a reward for that, for your family. Don't think you're done, but if you can go through these 10 essentials, you will be well on your way to helping your children be porn immune. Helping others. Caring is sharing. Sharing is caring. And it actually brings you more happiness and increases your hope when you help others, so this is my challenge, in that you would talk to 3 people. Now, I know many of you said you would talk to 5, and that's good. I've got lower expectations. So, 1 friend, 1 family member, and 1 leader, either in your school, your community, your church, your government. 1 friend, 1 family member, 1 leader. Share what you've learned. Share these resources with them. And then I would invite you to join us at Protect Young Minds. Please subscribe to our blog. If you'll fill out this little feedback form, we'll go ahead and add you to our blog. We don't spam you. We just send out mostly 1 email a week. We want to continue to support parents in that way. Like our Facebook page, share our content, and if you want, we'd love to have you be an ambassador for Protect Young Minds and help us get the word out. We can't do it by ourselves. We need help. So just to summarize, early warning reduces risk. Nothing bad is going to happen if you start talking to your 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old about pornography. Only good will come out of it, seriously. Girls are just as vulnerable as boys, and there's lots of research that does show that porn harms kids, and again, you can get that information from us. I sincerely believe that kids, and I've seen evidence of this, that kids that are raised with the 10 essentials can choose to become porn immune. If they don't have this training, they are blindsided, they are caught off guard. But if they do, they're inoculated against it, and they have a plan, and they know that you are with them on this. So thank you very much. I know that as we teach our children, they can reject pornography. Thank you very much.